All right, welcome back. We'll be starting the next panel now. Before I start the conversation, I would like to introduce all our panelists today. Two of the panelists will be joining in another 5 minutes or so. But without waiting, let me actually start the introduction. Let me start with Sanjay Prohit. He's Chief Curator, Societal Platform, as well as Chief Advisor to Shiksha Lokam, a strong advocate of open digital infrastructure, leading evolution of societal platform thinking, working with many organizations towards achieving that. Uh, Innovative method to resolve complex societal challenges, and he has been working with Ekstep Foundation very closely to help us evolve our thought process in context to Sunbird infrastructure, which is yet another societal platform in context to learning. Welcome, Sanjay, to the panel.
Thank you, Alok.
Okay. Let me go to next. Rahul Kulkarni, technology expert, Samagra governance. Rahul, very passionate about leveraging data and technology to create impact at scale. And he's taking what he has done in his past life to use it in context to, how does that get used in context to changing and improving in the society context. He was one of the first product manager at Google India. Welcome, Rahul.
Thank you so much, Alok.
Next, Vijay Sunkeshwari, co-founder, CEO of Taranto. Vijay have been working very closely with Xstep Foundation in our Sunbird journey for last 5 years. And it's been a great pleasure, Vijay, to have you on the panel. Apart from that, Vijay is also quite passionate to leverage technology across bringing the change. Welcome, Vijay. Okay, let me go forward.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Vijay. Let me go forward. Shiva Murthy, Senior Director, Advisory, PwC India. He has worked extensively across domains in his consulting experience in the past, uh, working very closely in context to Sunbird and how Sunbird infra, can be applicable to different domains. Welcome, Shiva, on the panel.
Thanks, Alok. Pleasure being on the panel.
Yeah, and Rakesh Verma, Director, Lead National Identity and Social Delivery Platform, Asia, India, and Middle East, Ernst& Young. Rakesh has been, engaged in context to Sunbird Infra, but as well as he is someone who has worked very deeply in public procurement and project management space in his consulting experience. Welcome, Rakesh.
Thank you, Alok. Great to be a part of this.
Okay, so we still have two panelists to join. So I guess, oh, we have Rajul here. Hey, hi, Rajul. Rajul, how are you?
Yeah. Hello. I'm
Okay.
sorry for my delay. Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah.
No problem. So let me introduce Dr. Rajaul Karim, Assistant Professor, NCRT. Dr. Rajaul has been leading multiple technology initiatives as part of CIET, Central Institute of Education Technology at NCRT, primarily focusing on how do you leverage technology to improve learning in context to school education. And as part of that, he's also actively involved in leveraging Diksha, which is one of the Sunbird infrastructures implementation in context to school education at a national level in India. Welcome again, Dr. Rajal.
Yeah. Thank you, Alan.
Okay, so we have a packed panel. So I'll, request each of the panelists if we can, go through a round of question, and if we can stick to 5 minutes each, so that we have some time left for the audience questions to also answer. So I'll start with Sanjay. So Sanjay, in context to your work in societal platform, also your engagement with Shiksha Lokam, would you like to share your experience how Sunbird Infra has helped Shiksha Lokam to achieve their work in school leadership space? What is the experience and why it is relevant to use a societal platform approach in something like Sunbird, which is focusing on learning services.
Sure. Thanks, Alok, and thank you so much for having me here today. It's amazing to see such a nice panel around. So, 2017, early 2017, S.D. Shivulal, who is a co-founder of Infosys, and Kumari, his wife, and I got talking about what can we do to build the leadership infrastructure around the 1.5 or so million schools that India has. Because in the end, while there were a lot of initiatives ramping up on the content for the children, teaching the teachers, but you need to also build that ecosystem of leadership so that it's a self-sustaining education system. And so initially the idea was we'll set up an institute, we will train principals. And so we said, no, we should take a platform approach, a societal platform thinking. And we started shaping the idea of saying, how do you build a platform for education system leadership? And that's how Shiksha Lokam was born. In early days, it was called NILE, National Institute for Leadership in Education, which we sort of gave up at that time, saying, no, it's not an institute. We have to institutionalize the idea and build a platform so that an ecosystem of partners can actually leverage the platform. And then we said, okay, so what do we do? And the first instance that we encountered Sunbird, we said that is the place to start because it's a very solid foundational architecture. It's very thoughtfully built. And so way back in 2017, we decided to start our journey with the foundation of Sunbird. And of course, those were early days for Sunbird itself. But we took it on. It was an amazing experience. It has been so far. We continue to first use it for learning. And then we realized that if you develop leaders, then it is not only about learning, it's also about doing. And so we said, now we have to extend what Sunbird is offering us. We have to create more capabilities, right? So initially the idea of saying we will develop teachers by giving them learning content, giving them asynchronous, offline, all the good stuff that has been discussed on the call, on the webinars today. We were starting to leverage that and we realized that we have to build some additional capabilities, extend Sunbird. And because the architecture was highly extensible, flexible, all the good stuff that Pramod has taught us over the journey of this many years, we started to build out additional capabilities. Like how do you sense what is going on? What is the state of the school? How do you create projects that people can actually act on? And so we started building those extensions. But ensured that architecturally we were absolutely in sync, and then multiple state programs started. So as we speak today, Shiksha Lokam, the platform services about 450,000 leaders across the country, across multiple states. We were starting to get a construct of what does it take to develop leadership, because we were able to learn, we were able to sense with the capabilities that we built, we were able to make sense with the analytics engines that we built. We're able to act with the project capabilities that we built. And we started getting a much better theory of change at scale. And that's when I think magic happened again, because we got back in sync with Sunbird and saying, hey, why don't we join hands as co-builders of the entire journey? And so that has been a very exciting phase over the last many months, where we actually took these capabilities that we had built and brought it back into the core Sunbird infrastructure. So it could be leveraged by Diksha, it could be leveraged by other installations of Sunbird and so on and so forth. But now we are also again super excited, because now we have this 2-engine journey going on, where on one end we are scaling along with the overall game plan of Sunbird, and we are continuing to look for the next innovation. What do we do now? What else do we build? How do we create more while keeping architectural sanctity? And I think this journey has been very exhilarating for the Shiksha Lokam team. We are a team under the Advait Foundation, which is supported by Shivulal and Kumari. And there has been a lot of excitement, because I think summarily in this short period of time, 18, 19, 20, 3 years, we were able to reach way beyond what we would have if we would have tried the other constructs of doing what you're planning to do. We are able to service more people. We are able to create a higher impact. We are able to mobilize societal change in a much more robust way. and of course, come back and be part of a fast evolving family. So I would say that has been the summary experience of being, and we are still on the journey. And I think ours is a lifelong relationship with Sunbird. So super excited about that.
Oh, absolutely, it has been great journey, as you said, and I think some of the things which you articulated, Sanjay, how some of those which evolved in the leadership also got relevant in terms of learn or help learn construct. So yeah, absolutely. From here, I'll go to Dr. Rajaul now. So Dr. Rajaul, Diksha is the biggest use case or installation of Sunbird infra, and we saw the numbers shared by MOE in the Twitter in the morning. Would you like to share some of the key aspects of how Diksha has helped school education nationally? What has been your experience, and if you can also reflect, how did it help given the difficult circumstances the country is going through, especially schools being closed in context to COVID?
Yeah, thanks a lot for giving me opportunity to speak to such an august gathering. So I'd like to start my comments by saying a big thanks to the development team who are behind the Sunbird, because it is for their efforts only we are able to get utilize such a wonderful platform. And as you rightly said, the numbers which we are getting through Diksha are wonderful, mesmerizing numbers. Millions of teachers are being trained almost on a real-time basis, concurrent basis. So, I mean, just if you look at the capacity, the robustness of the platform itself, we were struggling a lot when last year, to be frank enough to say, when we were conducting this NISTA without Diksha, this NISTA large-scale teacher training program, which is being conceived as probably world's biggest teacher training program, because NCERT last year started with the mission of training 42 lakh school teachers in primary grade in throughout the country. So whole NCERT team was roaming around, and we could cover in a two-layer mode almost some 22 lakh teachers across some of the states. Then this pandemic came in, and I mean we were struggling a lot, but then kind of a boon we got the Diksha platform, and after a lot of deliberation and thanks to the technical team behind Diksha, who have been providing us continuous support, so we could kind of revisit, redo our NISTA modules in a way that suits in an online platform like Diksha. And we initially started this course in English, then we came up with Hindi, and I mean the thanks to the facility of making states as a tenant, equal partnership of states and UTs and all other organizations. So we could just in real time basis, simultaneously, we could request all the states to translate all the training modules in their languages, particular languages, regional languages. Not only that, even contextualize their local needs, and it could be taken up simultaneously. And today we are proud to say that barring 2 states, we have launched online NISTA training program in all the states of our country,
Fabulous.
and almost more than half of the states we have already completed. We started in the month of mid of October with Andhra Pradesh. So this is just the aspect of training, teacher training, continuous professional development of teachers that we have been carrying out with Diksha. And we don't plan to stop here, because we plan to bring out micro courses. So our ultimate goal, as rightly recommended by the new education policy, to have smaller micro level, probably unit wise, or what something called module or chapter as a course, something like that, so that teachers can continuously have carry out their professional development. So this is just to talk about the training aspect. The other important aspect, because if we talk keep on talking, there are n number of things that we are able to leverage the Diksha platform and which we are carrying out, but I'd like to focus on 2 3 other important aspects. The second important aspect is again the energized textbook, because we are not only able to put all the existing NCERT textbooks of class 1 to 12, so many other textbooks in different languages across all the states. With their help, we have put all those textbooks. And when I say we have put the textbooks, it is not only about simply bringing the books on the Diksha platform. We have what we call energized them all the textbooks by linking them to different e-resources, because we have 1 lakh more, almost 1.5 lakh e-resources lying on Diksha. Of course, NCERT is the biggest contributor there, but we have many other partners who are with whom different MOUs we have done, and we have been getting lots of contents through Vidyadan as well. So all these contents lying on Diksha platform, again helping us to energize the textbooks and giving a complete set of access to the teachers as well as parents and learners, and particularly during this pandemic. Then through this PM eVidya initiative, which was launched by the government of India during the pandemic, which was announced by the Honorable Minister of Finance in her budget speech. So through that, what we have come out is that NCERT has come out with 12 dedicated television channels, 12 dedicated DTH channels, 1 per class. So from class 1 to 12, we have today NCERT is running 12 different TV channels. And all those TV channels are disseminating class-wise contents which has been developed through learning outcomes, mapping with competency score competencies of each class. So when we are why I'm bringing the reference of PM eVidya TV here is that while we are transmitting all our contents through these TV channels on a 24/7 basis, at the same time, the innovation that we could figure out is that we have QR coded all the contents that we are transmitting through the TV programs. The idea behind is what we are calling the coherence. The idea of our coherence access here is that we realize that in a household, typically there may be more than one child, and naturally they might not be reading be in the same class. And household typically may have only one television, if at all that has. So how do you provide access? Besides that, a child might have missed a television slot where that particular content was transmitted. So what we can do, a user can do is that user can scan the QR code which is embedded in that TV content, piece of video which is being transmitted on the TV. So it directly lands you to the Diksha platform. So when you can either use the Diksha website or use the Diksha mobile app, and that way you land to not only that content on Diksha platform, it shows you relevant contents mapped to that content as well. So this is a great milestone that we could do this coherence, which is helping users in a big way, and particularly in the pandemic time, because in this pandemic time, our usage in terms of students, teachers, and parents have scaled up in a big way. In last few months, data shows that it has kind of an exponential growth we have got. So all this we could support only because of, as I said in my beginning, thanks to the robustness of the platform, and which I believe is thanks to the core development team in Sunbird, because of the capability of the platform that we could do all these things in a big way. And next we plan to connect this Diksha is going to leverage the data which government of India is collecting through UDIS, right? All the school administration data, teachers data, students data. So Diksha again plans to leverage those data and build a holistic kind of thing, wherein we plan to build up through Diksha what we call holistic progress card of a learner, wherein we can track a learner right from the first day one joins the school or accesses the Diksha platform, so that a holistic assessment can happen, not only through the routine examinations, but through a holistic approach. That's what. These are some of the important points that I wanted to highlight here. So keeping time constant in mind, I'd like to stop myself here. Thanks again.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Rajal. Very exciting to see, what NCERT and MOE has been, has been focused. Absolutely. Glad to hear that. From here, I'll go to Rakesh. So Rakesh, the question I want to explore with you is: we heard Sunbird has been built keeping the diversity of India in mind, the complexity of India in mind, and we heard from Dr. Rajaul how NCRT along with MOE is using this platform to really look at solving not only the current pandemic related challenges but also beyond that, helping to improve the learning across the country in school education. What is the perspective of its applicability outside India? What's the perspective? And what is your experience or work so far?
Sure. Thanks, Alok. Alok, if you see, last week we had discussion with the World Bank team also, and then World Bank called for a workshop where he invited all the nations from Anglophone and Francophone nations from Africa, and where Secretary Dossel talk about Diksha, the journey, the scale, and so on and so forth. And then we heard from the ministers from these African nations, the officials. See, I'll give you some numbers. If you see in terms of scale, only 3 nations across world, I think China, Indonesia, and US, the population is more than the kids we have in school education. Okay, and the scale, the journey we travel in India is very much similar. The challenges in terms of giving a good learning content to students, giving more capacity building courses for teachers, very much similar. And because of this COVID pandemic, I think the need of our is how we can make short modular courses, make it up and running, the cost saving. I think Dr. Jha will talk about this. The kind of cost saving Secretary Dossel mentioned last time in the call also, 10% of the total cost incurred last year on NISTA. In terms of speed, I think 4x. So, and this is education part. If we talk about other verticals, I think agriculture, it's a big space, public finances, MSME sector. So that capacity building use case, I think it's a need of an hour. And since I'm working with my counterparts in Africa, in CIS countries, they are very keen. I think they have seen challenges. They are working towards that. Again, coming back to the other use case also, if you see in Indian context. In fact, I can talk about, see, the QR code concept we have. So we have 60 crore books available with the QR coded one. The interesting part would be the IC part. Okay, I'll give you 2 use cases. In coming months, there would be a drive for COVID vaccination. We have to train approximately 3 lakh more vaccinators. We have to train 50 lakh ASHA workers, ANM workers, and so on and so forth. And this would be kind of a information dissemination challenge also, because there would be a chaos at a center. How do you manage that? Since you have a QR code, you can dynamically change the training content. Information dissemination would be a powerful use case here. Same way for agri. You see the agriculture side. I think as we speak, India is spending around $4 billion just to train farmers and different stakeholder in this. Strong use case. And in Africa also, because of this crop pattern is changing dynamically, schedules, calendar need to be informed to farmers also. So I think not only in education, I think beyond education also, there's a use case available. And I think entire Africa, CIS country look forward, kind of advice from India, how we have built education stack on Sun.
Very, very fascinating. So from here, Rahul, I'll come to you. I know you are very passionate about, open source movement. And, if you look at this context, Sunbird, infra as one of the open source being built, keeping an Indian context in mind, looks like it has applicability in India and outside India. What are your thoughts, in the context of open source movement, in context to India, where we are, what should happen? And then fundamentally, we are talking about the human capital development, right? And Umakant in the last panel talked about how, Nordic countries focus on that, how that's a fundamental. what's your point of view, the open source movement in Indian context and the learning?
When it comes to open source, let me lay out some context. In the kinds of things we've been doing at Samagra, seen Diksha on the field and derived learnings out of it to establish what it means for open source overall. Now, Samagra, as you know, is involved in step function transformations, whether it's in education, employment, skilling. Often, a lot of these are multi-year engagements where really it's the best of governance, data, and technology that needs to all come together to actually make some huge step function happen. In doing this, you do need some core technology infrastructure pieces, whether it is something as simple as digitization or as complex as an algorithm to create, say, figure out a list for Kalia for disbursement of basic minimum income, or it is to even facilitate teacher transfers. All of these are algorithms. Or then you have content, what content to give the teacher, what content to give the student, where things like Diksha comes in. So in all of these, as we have worked through Himachal Pradesh, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, as we've been starting with, one thing that matters is modularity. And we've seen Diksha in all of these places, very well used. One thing that I really love about Diksha, and this goes to the way, the open source philosophy of building things with building blocks and making them modular. So to give you an example, in Himachal Pradesh right now, there is something that is used very widely that we had also created at Samagra and open source called eSamvad, which enables communication with the from teachers to the parents of the students. And that has been immensely helpful in really getting parent buy-in and student presence in class. Now, in doing that, we now need to, we said, hey, let's now send them relevant content. If we have the eyes of parents and we can personalize that, why not give them personalized content pieces? And that is where Diksha comes in, like, okay, is there a place where content exists? Yes, it does. Yes, it is modular. Yes, it is only a link away. Yes, it has access control. All of these things, right, are principles of open source manifested at its best with Sunbird, as you rightly mentioned, beautifully designed, beautifully architected platform. And in that way, what we're thinking is authentication can happen elsewhere. Content can come from Diksha. Other things can happen. For example, another example in Haryana, we're thinking about how do you now actually get assessments going, and final exams coming up.
Yeah.
How do question papers develop? And typically, you would have NCRTs or SCRTs of different states create their own software. Figure out how to create a question paper, then PDF it at the last minute, and so on. Now, Diksha or Sunbird really has an amazing assessment module. So while yes, in terms of time, depending on timeline, right, we can build out something simple standalone, but why not leverage something that's part of Sunbird? That is an assessments module with question types, all very well defined, all documented on the site, just like any other open source project. Leveraging this building block for actually creating a whole new application. We think of Sunbird very in line with Diksha, right?
Yeah.
Sunbird equal to Diksha for most people, but I would really say just go to the site, just look at different pieces of Sunbird. You have user profiling, you have authentication, you have role-based access, you have assessments, and available with different standards. So now bringing it back to open source, all of this really showcases how open source principles have been manifested in Sunbird to its best. I really think in India, we're missing, we use MySQL, we use Metabase. As at Samagra, we've been big proponents of open source within the government also. So getting governments to use a Metabase, Apache Superset, use these simple tools for dashboarding, or use Open Data Kit, ODK for data collection, create their own apps using ODK as a basis. It has transformed ways in which technology is deployed and adopted within weeks, not months or years that used to happen through RFPs and vendors and all the corruption that's associated. So given this speed at which open source can work, sometimes I always find it surprising, why isn't there an open source movement in India? Where is the open source project? Where is that massive open source project in India We pride ourselves as the IT hub, all engineers, willing to, everyone has a heart, everyone has that intent to help. We can send a Mangalyaan to Mars, we can't build out our own government operating system, contributing, all of us. And I think in that sense, I feel very proud of Sunbird being there as that lighthouse, as an example of what open source can create in India. I think Sunbird is a great example. There will be more, and there's so many facets, like everybody mentioned, the simple thing of QR code, right? Getting QR code and getting there. I think many people don't realize when you think of private companies and government implementations, in governments, data needs to be with the government. So you need to deploy it on government servers, and there the entire stack needs to be open source. You cannot just say, oh, we're just going to have managed services and AWS and all. It doesn't work in the government context where data is important. And that is where the way Sunbird has been built, just like Siksha Lokam works, just like so many different platforms built over Sunbird work, the whole textbook system with QR codes work. It's only us, if we as developers, as different organizations, contribute back to Sunbird, leverage Sunbird, deploy them in different instances, create more gaps, create more use cases, and contribute back. I think it really needs that India ecosystem getting created, and Sunbird can be that beginning of it.
Absolutely. Great to hear that. I can see Gopan Kumar. Oh no, actually he dropped. I think he's having difficulty in his line. Okay, so from there, let me go to Vijay. So Vijay, I mean, you've been part of the whole 5-year journey, of building Sunbird infra, working very closely with the team. Can you share, your experience so far, and not only just about being a partner to build the Sunbird infra, but also your reflection of its applicability in context to the work Taranto is doing. Hello, Vijay, we can't hear you. Hello. Can others hear Vijay?
No, Vijay is on
No,
mute.
look, we can't
Okay.
hear.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Now we can.
Yeah. Sorry. Sorry for that. I was saying, thanks for having me here, and it's been a great day so far.
चालू किया
Yeah, go ahead, Vijay.
Yeah, sure. It's been a great ride for us. Both for me personally and for us as an organization, Taranto, to be part of the Sunbird journey as one of the key collaborators. We have actually seen applicability of Sunbird much beyond education, so to say. So I will actually, come to that in a minute. But then I do believe that the technology generalization and the scale readiness that Sunbird offers out of the box has actually aided Sunbird's usage in areas which is beyond just school education. The Ministry of Urban Affairs used it for capacity building a while ago. NSDL is actually looking to use it as well. We are working with at least one organization associated with United Nations in US to actually, which is looking to use Sunbird for their capacity building programs. And the biggest of them all till date, is Mission Karma Yogi or IGOT, which is termed as the biggest civil services reforms since independence, so to say. So there, Sunbird is being used not just for capacity building, but really more as a solutioning space to let government departments, government officials, bureaucrats, and departments break the silos. And it's actually it is positioned as a platform that will harness the full potential of all the civil servants across the country, both at the central and the state level as well. So it is much beyond learning, because there are a lot of hubs that are there which are centered around learning, career, discussions, network, and even competencies. So today, as we see, there is a lot of traction on Sunbird in the executive branch, which is one of the 3 pillars of democracy, right? So the executive branch is adopting Sunbird in a pretty large way, as we can see. I do believe that it is just a matter matter of time before the other two pillars of democracy, which are the judiciary and the legislature, they would probably also start adopting Sunbird pretty rapidly. And in this regard, we have also tried to analyze or just look at, like, why does it? Why does Sunbird come out as a natural option when we talk about these country scale programs, right? We do believe that the Sunbird being fully customizable, it is very easily extensible as well. So some of these actually really stand out in a lot of ways. Also, the generic object model that Sunbird has at the core of it really lets the whole platform to be used in any other use case apart from education as well. So that genericness, which is at the core of the platform itself, that actually I think is a big differentiator when you look at the other things, so to say. I do also believe that Sunbird being open source, as Rahul, spoke about it earlier, that makes the life of decision makers a lot easy. There's no debate on, around any proprietary platform and all of it, right? So Sunbird being fully open source and the licenses being so, easy in terms of usage, extendability, reusability, and all, that actually I think is a big, USP of Sunbird. At the same time, Sunbird being built on the latest of the tech stacks, I would also really believe that, these good, nice tech stacks that Sunbird uses at the core of it is like, something which technologists aspire to work upon. So that makes the adoption of Sunbird very frictionless, even within the tech communities. Otherwise, most tech communities can say, hey, why don't I build something ground up, right? That's the itch that they usually have. So Sunbird being built on the latest of the tech stacks is also something which can come across as aspirational and very frictionless towards the tech communities as well. So I actually see immense potential in Sunbird being adopted across multiple, domains and across multiple countries and in areas as well. So I find the future to be definitely bright.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Vijay, for your thoughts. Gopan Kumar, can you hear me, Gopan?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Welcome to the panel,
Welcome.
Gopan.
Thanks. I think I have some problem with my internet, so video may not be possible.
No problem.
Let's try my level best to.
Yeah. Let me introduce Gopan very quickly. Senior VP Business Development, Infrastructure Services and HR at NSDL. He has a track record of on various business strategies and implementation in financial services. So Gopan, question to you. I don't know whether you got a chance to hear the panelists, but there was a conversation in summary where we heard about Diksha case of its use, how it has helped, in context to school education, teacher training. We heard about various use cases in Indian context and abroad. As NSDL, is working deeply in financial services sector. What I would like to hear from you is, do you see a parallel thread, in terms of what you have seen in financial services sector might be relevant in context to a learning space, a learning education space? And what excites about the learning space and Sunbird for you?
Yeah, it's a very good question actually, because we were considered to be one of the basic financial institutions in the country for the last more than 2 decades. But one important aspect that comes to my mind is the power of inclusion. When you are comparing the financial inclusion with the kind of education when we are talking about on the Sunbird. So the first question comes to my mind is the power of inclusion. Just like financial inclusion, okay, there is also a need for an inclusive education, right? Okay, so and being Sunbird is an open platform and also provides limitless opportunities for roping up marginalized and people. So they again brought these guys to the main education stream, education system. So I think there is a opportunity for inclusion, the way financial inclusion happened. Similarly, a lot of parallels we can see it in the educational inclusions also. and have the potential to create, educational opportunities for all part of the society. So I think broadly, if you look at it, there is a possibility in parallel with the financial sector.
Yeah. Okay, great. So Shiva, you've been working in in the consulting space, multiple domains. You have been also of course working in Diksha context to some to one level. Would like to hear from you. What are the challenges in the learning space you have seen as part of your consulting world, and where do you see the biggest value which can be unleashed given the diversity of the country we are, and how do we go about doing that?
Thanks, Alok. Thanks for having me on the panel. Right from the challenges, when we look at not only the K-12 but higher education or even capacity building, I think the biggest challenge that people are grappling with is how do we manage now learning and education? Because they're used to complete classroom, they're used to complete online, but then how do you bring these two together in a blended form is something which the different levels, right from K-12, vocational, higher education, lifelong learning, they have different modes and methods of doing it, and they're grappling with it. I think that's one big challenge that they're facing. The second one is, of course, not many of them know right away what they are looking for in a solution. So they know they have to evolve. They need something which will help them get off the ground, but they also need the confidence that this would evolve as they learn how their learners learn along with them. So that's a second big challenge. And when they get flooded with a lot of options with respect to how they can solve the problem, they are a bit confused, but they want something which will give them confidence that they can go ahead. The third one is, of course, I think it was also mentioned in the panel about the technology itself. Now, technology going out of fashion or not getting people to support a specific technology is a very big fear. So even though you invest in a solution, can I be assured that this will really last some time, also along with the architecture? So I would say this would be the three. But if you get down to the actual learning, we found three main challenges. One is, of course, device. As long as it is digital, we need some device. Second is connectivity. And third is affordability. And I think these three challenges are really plaguing us. The moment we are able to solve one or two of them in one form or the other, I'm pretty sure whatever we are embarking on is really going to be the way to solve our learning and teaching problems.
Thanks, Shiva. That was very insightful to hear that. So actually we're running on time, so I'll ask one question. So Sanjay, I would like to take a conclusive question with you. So we heard, I mean, you talked about your experience with Shiksha Lokam and how it evolved, and we heard multiple aspects. Fundamentally, learning is a common problem, is what we heard. It seems to be relevant and common in certain patterns across the world, whether it's India or abroad. And I think a very important point which Rahul made was open source movement. India has not seen it yet, but why not? We are now look at from a technology perspective are leaders in that. And at the same time, Shiva talked about that it's a problem where the solution also has to evolve. It cannot be static, and it's a problem of learning to be solved also have to evolve. If you put your societal platform hat and look at this, what does that mean to basically activate the ecosystem and activate in a way where there's a win-win across the horizon of Sarkar, Samar, Bazaar?
Thanks, Alok. So I think my work currently spans about 25 to 26 different types of platforms in different sectors, ranging from education to financial inclusion to healthcare to urbanization, justice. There's a wide variety. Across them, I would say in the context of our discussion today, what I would love to share is one, it is one idea to open source the software. It's a different idea to open source the idea and build the ecosystem around the software, which I think the Sunbird team has invested a lot of time, energy, effort. It takes a lot to give of yourself to build that community, to build that ecosystem, which across the entire team that has been working on Sunbird has been so forward thinking. and building that ecosystem, right? And building the connections. All of us are here on this call today, right? These are all connections, right? Because and that's a very important facet of it. The second important facet of it is to force those connections. It's okay to say, you know, okay, I've open sourced my software. Here's the gate. It's lying here. Go ahead. That's not enough. It takes a lot to actually find and help people discover the use cases, help to figure out what to do. Because in societal platform thinking, essentially, what are we saying? Three things to build a good ecosystem. You need a shared enabling infrastructure, which is Sunbird. You need an ecosystem of innovators, like we are talking about now, and there are many on the calls, and there are many NGOs and many tech and non-tech companies working around Sunbird. And then you need a robust network of people who actually take this idea and make a difference on the ground. Because in the end, if you don't see a change, if you don't see an impact on the society and the ecosystem at large, then the energy does not come through. And I think doing all these three things in a network is what makes this successful. Just having a source code in open source is not the point, but liberating the idea, liberating the energy around it, making the connections, building the network. And I think in India, we don't have too many examples where people are spinning up an ecosystem. Whereas I'm sure the grid is strewn with all sorts of code that people have written and put in, but then that is not enough.
Yep. No, very well said. Very well said, Sanjay. So yeah. So on that note, I think we are running out of time. We won't be able to take any more questions. Thanks a lot, everyone. I think it was a very fascinating conversation to, you know, take the journey from Diksha to various domains in India and outside India. And I think on the closing note from Sanjay, I think it could not have been said better than that. So on that, thanks to everyone on the panel. It was very, you know, interesting and a very encouraging conversation that how do we move forward from here on the Sunbird infra, platform journey. So thanks a lot, everyone.